Hey everyone, Ryan here at etrailer. Today we're going to be checking out the Blue Ox Acclaim tow bar. And a tow bar is going to be one of the 5 main parts that you're going to need to set up your flat tow. The other 4 will be your base plate, your safety cables, your tow bar wiring, and your supplemental braking system. And when it comes to picking out a tow bar, it's an important decision because it's going to be the physical link that actually connects the front of your towed vehicle to the back of your motorhome. So you're going to be handling a lot. You want something that's easy to use and work with, and something that you can rely on. It's going to pull your vehicle down the road well. And with this style, the Acclaim, this is actually a coupler style tow bar, meaning it's going to drop down on your standard 2-inch ball, regular old ball mount, as opposed to some of the other tow bars which are called motorhome mounted. And with those, they'd have a shank here that would actually plug into your motorhome's hitch. My first impressions of the tow bar, as soon as I picked it up, I noticed how lightweight it was. This thing only weighs 35 pounds, which is pretty good compared to a lot of the other tow bars. And that's just gonna make it a lot more manageable when you're setting it up and things like that. And just the overall build quality of it. Blue Ox makes really nice tow bars. They look good. Everything operates smooth like you'd expect it to, so you shouldn't run into too many issues there. A moment ago though, I mentioned, with this being a coupler style, why would you want a coupler style over some of the other types of tow bars that are motorhome mounted, the ones that go right into the hitch? And you really can't go wrong with either one, to be honest with you, but I feel like a coupler one really has a place just depending on how you use your whole entire rig. I feel like this is a perfect scenario here where you have a vehicle that's a little more dedicated to really just flat towing. And I say that because this tow bar can actually be stored on the front of your vehicle whenever you're not hooked up. So if you got a car like this where you really only use it to flat tow, it's pretty straightforward. You leave everything set up on it. That way the next time you go to hook up, goes together real easy. And the same's going to hold true for disconnecting. You don't have to store the tow bar here and other parts on the car and things like that. Or if you do more than just flat towing, right? So let's say maybe occasionally you pull a boat or a different type of utility trailer with some 4-wheelers or something like that on it, right? With this being a coupler style, you can take this off, leave it on your vehicle, completely remove it, whatever you want to do, and you still have your trailer hitch ball mount back here. That way you can just quickly drop another trailer on here, hook up, and get going down the road without having to pull a big tow bar out, stash it somewhere, and go through all that trouble. One of the things I did notice compared to a lot of the other motorhome mounted tow bars is the length of this one. It seems to be, just by looking at it, maybe a little bit shorter than a lot of those out there. And generally speaking, the more distance you have between your two vehicles, the better. The tow bar is just a little more responsive around turns and things like that. But that's not to say this is super short by any means. I think it'll be fine and more than sufficient in a lot of situations, right? And it's just all going to kind of depend too on your particular application. If the hitch on your motorhome is kind of buried back there, that'll obviously close the gap a little bit, right? Or if the attachment points on your base plate are really wide, that'll make the arms have to stretch out more and close that gap too. Which kind of brings you to my next point. If you decide to use this tow bar, and a lot of tow bars out there actually, you want to make sure that it's going to work with your base plate, right? And so something you need to check is the distance between your attachment points. This one's designed to work with base plates that have a spread of 23 inches all the way up to 30 inches. If yours exceeds that, there's definitely other options out there for you. Most of the vehicles that we set up fall within that range, but you have a few oddballs that exceed it. A lot of Jeep Cherokees will exceed it, and larger vehicles like that. Something else to keep in mind too, the tow bar has a 5,000 pound weight capacity, so you definitely want to be sure never to exceed that. If your vehicle's heavier than that, a ton of different options out there that could get the job done for you. Now there is another really popular coupler mounted tow tow bar. It's made by Roadmaster. It's called the Stowmaster, and they're really similar in a lot of ways, but different in a lot of ways too. And so as we kind of go through everything here, I will be comparing this one to that, just to give you something to go off of here. But one of the big things a lot of people look for when it comes to a tow bar is how easy is this thing going to be to use, right? You don't want to spend a bunch of time dealing with something and preventing you from getting out and having fun. And this one's pretty straightforward. You know, there's some things that I really like and some other things that I feel like could be improved upon a little bit. But one of the things I like is that ease of use. You know, so the ends here, when you go to hook up and disconnect, you're simply just going to have a pin and clip here that you pull out. The arms will separate and put it back together. So really nothing to think about there. As opposed to the Stowmaster, that one has a crossbar style base plate. So you have a whole nother component here that runs across, and it's not really a huge deal as far as getting stuff hooked up and everything. It's just a little bit more bulky and kind of in your way compared to this one where it, you know, directly connects right there. You got two little parts to deal with, right? Which brings me to my next point too. This tow bar, these ends are going to work with the Blue Ox base plates as well as some of the other ones. Even if you have a completely different base plate, you know, chances are pretty good you can pick up adapter ends that'll let you change these out and pair them two together. Something else that I really like about this Acclaim is the fact that it is a non-binding type tow bar. All right, so it has these levers here, and a lot of times what can happen if you get to where you're going, you go to disconnect, the connection point is super tight and you can't pull that pin out. If that were to happen with this one, push this lever down, it'll release all that tension. You know, you got one on each side there, and make it super easy like we just showed you. As compared to that Stowmaster, that is a binding type tow bar. So, you know, if that were to happen, it's a little bit more difficult to get separated, right? They do have a little button on the top that you can get a tool for to give you leverage and apply pressure to it to free it up, but that's just one more thing you got to keep track of, as opposed to just having it kind of built right into the tow bar. Something that I'm really not too crazy about, which really isn't a huge deal, where your coupler latch locks down, you know, you usually have a pin or something that goes through there to prevent it from accidentally coming disengaged. And they give you a little tether here, and it's just a cotter pin almost that is kind of opened up, which works fine, but I don't know. Like I said, not really a huge fan of it, especially considering it's a pretty important part, you know, preventing this from coming undone and uncoupling. But like I said, not really a huge deal. If it were me and I was using this, I would probably end up picking up a pin like this and getting rid of this one. It just gives me a little bit more peace of mind, and honestly a little bit easier to use too. I'm sure after you get some miles on this and it starts to bend and stuff like that, get a little bit softer, might be kind of a pain. But just something to think about, something that I noticed. But the actual coupler mechanism is smooth. You know, the handle operates like you'd want it to. Gets a good grab onto the actual ball there. And, you know, when you lift it up, it's easy to line up and everything, right? So it's connected to the front of the vehicle now. That gives you a little bit more stability. You can find that ball and get everything dropped down on it. Like that, nothing really to it. And it is designed to work with 2-inch trailer hitch balls, so make sure you have that on your ball mount, and of course that your ball mount is you know, up to the task and has the proper weight capacities to even pull your vehicle down the road in the first place. Something that I do think is pretty convenient is the tow bar comes included with safety cables. So you know they're going to be the right style, length, capacity, things like that. And I like these hooks too. Little spring-loaded deal there. And these work with a lot of base plates. You know, they're relatively small in diameter. and fit through just about any size opening. I thought I'd mention this too. Whenever you set this up, you want your coupler to be parallel with the ground. All right, so you may have to accommodate that by using a different drop or rise in your ball mount. If the one you currently have doesn't work, if it's way off or something, you know. So something to always think about there, especially too if you do tow multiple things, right? Like we talked about earlier, if you pull a trailer around or something like that. If that's the case and you have to get a new ball mount anyway, that's where one that's adjustable would really shine there, because you could set the ball up real quick for your tow bar. If you're not flat towing, you're pulling a trailer, you could adjust that ball real easy and have it be set up perfectly for that trailer. But you know, I talked about this being able to be stored on the front of the vehicle, so let's get all of our wiring and everything unhooked and check that out. Everyone kind of has their own method of doing this. Personally, I like to just start with all the components on the front, getting those unhooked and kind of out of our way. Seems to make storing this a little bit easier. And what you can do is remove this pin first if you want. I like to honestly start up at the coupler though. So we'll pull this out, undo that, pull this out, and this is one of the things that I think the Stowmaster might be a little bit easier to, you know, actually store on the front of your vehicle. It pretty much just folds up and locks down. For this one, it is you know, it's a little more difficult in my opinion. Not too bad by any means, but what's going to happen, this little piece of steel here, this U-shaped piece of steel has a hole in it. That's going to line up with our base plate there. And then over here on this side of the tow bar, we have this post, and our tow bar end is going to line up with that. And you just kind of have to find that perfect spot there. Granted, this tow bar is brand new too. I'm sure after you put, you know, a few miles on it, everything loosens up a little bit. But you take the pin that was originally holding the arm in, put that through, probably good practice just to close this up too. And over here, that will drop into position like that. They give you a little pin that you put through there to keep everything kind of locked and secured. You can probably see now why I think this is a good, especially good idea if you have more of a dedicated type flat tow vehicle, because with it stored on the front, everything's all together, ready for you to use. You know, really nothing to it to unstore it. A couple of pins already there, drop it onto your ball mount, plug your electrical and stuff in, and that's really all there is to it there. You know, if that is your situation, or you plan on leaving this stored on the front for quite some time, or you know, it's parked outside, they do offer a bag that's made for this one that'll cover it up, and you can help keep your investment protected. Other than all that, at the end of the day, you know, I think this is a really well-made tow bar, pretty easy to use, and depending on your application, I think should work out real well. But I think that'll about do it for our look at of the Blue Ox Acclaim tow bar.